All right, my friends. Thank you so much, Gabby, for coming. We had a little check-in while we were waiting to see if others would come on. I know a number of people reached out that they couldn't come on tonight. And just the last few classes, I know before the end of June, we only have two more after this. One will be about the summer, what happens in the summer. That'll be next week, meaning what are the holidays, or they're all sad. So we call them minor holidays. It's the 3-week period. It's good to learn about it every year, actually. And then we'll have a final session for people to just come on with questions. And I'm going to actually ask people if they're going to come for that session. Then we'll have a break for the summer, where I really hope everybody will schedule time for a check-in with me. And we do have new people joining us. We'll probably have new people joining us next year. They're going to join at the beginning. Again, people have reached out, so it just depends after the interview and seeing what works for them. So that's just what's going to happen from now on. Gabby doesn't have a siddur, so I'm not going to use a siddur. What I'm going to do is just tell in general what happens in Shavuot. But before I do that, I would love to give a shout out for the scroll that we read on Shavuot, on this holiday. Remember, it's one of the 3 biblical pilgrimage holidays. Do you remember why they're called the pilgrimage holidays, Gabby? No. They're called pilgrimage because at the time when the temple was around, the men basically, but women probably came as well, were required, if they could, to leave their homes and come up to Jerusalem, to fill Jerusalem with Jews, and to bring offerings, sacrifices or offerings on the altars in the temple. And so it's actually called the pilgrim. It's interesting, the word in Hebrew, there are different words. Chagim, chag is just general holiday. But the shalosh regalim, the 3 pilgrimage festivals, shalosh means 3. Regalim are festivals, but only the pilgrimage festivals, because it comes from the word regel, which means foot or leg. So it's because you actually come up to Jerusalem, you walk up, or at the time. So because of that, they're called what are the 3? Do you know? You can guess.
Would one be?
It's not Rosh Hashanah and it's not Yom Kippur.
What's there's the holiday before with the Ephraim, where were you with the palm leaves?
Sukkot.
Sukkot, thank you.
Sukkot, yep, the festival of what is it called? Booths, I guess, in English, where we sit in Sukkot. We actually sit in these booths that are made, and we make a blessing. There's a mitzvah to remember how the Israelites sat in booths in the desert, or were covered by the clouds of glory, and God protected us. And we hold the 4 kinds of species. It's really a very nature centered. So that's Sukkot. And then, which culminates in Simchat Torah, which is, we know the day October 7th was last year. And then we have Pesach, Passover. Those are the 3. This is called the Festival of Weeks. Shavuot means weeks, because were you here actually when Hannah taught about it? Or I taught about it? Maybe I taught about it.
No, that was the class I missed.
Okay, so it's important to watch the classes when you miss them, because there's no other way for us to give you that information if you don't watch them. So it's really, really important. And before actual conversion, we hope that everybody at least once participates or watches at least, 1 class on each topic, so that you know what's happening. So Pesach, Passover, we just had. And then Shavuot is 7 weeks after Passover. Did you learn about counting the Omer? Did you hear about that? So that's the one you missed.
Yeah.
So you really have to, that we're just finishing. I mean, literally, it's been 48 days. We're up to the 7 full weeks. So tonight's the last night. And then Shavuot is the 50th day, and that's when we celebrate. It's an agricultural festival, but we also celebrate receiving the Torah, which we believe happened on the same day. Everybody you're good with that so far? Everything I've been saying? Okay, great. So we read a special scroll on the 3 pilgrimage festivals. On Purim, we read the scroll of Esther, the book of Esther. But on the 3 pilgrimage festivals, which again are Sukkot, Pesach, and Shavuot, so each one we read. On Shavuot, we read the scroll of Ruth. Did you ever hear about the story of Ruth?
Yes, I studied the Christian version of it like when I was younger. Like very
I don't
little.
know if there's a Christian version. It's the same. What could be different?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess
Yeah, I don't see
in
that
a
there's a
Christian
difference.
lens then I
I mean,
guess
there's
that's
nothing Jesus or anything in there. There's nothing Christianity as far as I know in there.
yeah, yeah.
So the book of Ruth is 4 chapters. It's a very sweet story. It's about the first known or documented convert, somebody who chose Judaism. It's about relationship between women and love between women, and her with her mother-in-law. And it's about kindness and belief in God, even through difficult times. And it's a little bit about the journey of the person who converts. It's about being embraced by the community you're coming into. And it's about saying goodbye to some people. It could be your family, which is what Ruth did. It could be her sister-in-law, basically. We don't know if it was her sister. Say goodbye to her because she didn't continue, whereas Ruth accompanied her mother-in-law back to Bethlehem, to Israel. So there are many points where you might find points of connection, and I want to recommend to everybody in this class. I'll send it out also. I recommend to everybody to read it. It would be great if we could have a discussion about it, but we don't have time for that. So the prayer service for Yom Tov is very much Yom Tov, right? What does that mean, Yom Tov? Do you remember?
Good day.
A good day, but it means a holiday. The Yom Tov is Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah, and Yom Kippur, also considered holidays. So on Yom Tov, well, let's put aside Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. The high holidays have their own special book that it's just different service. But these three, Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, they have similar, very, very similar prayer service. You won't be able to go to synagogue because you're going to be working, you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But if you went, so it, at night, it's shorter than Shabbat because it doesn't have the special singing tunes that are in the beginning of Shabbat services. You know about those? Kabbalat Shabbat. Do you go to a shul, a synagogue that has singing at night?
I don't know if they would do that at night.
Have you been there at night?
No, only day. Like they're
Oh, only day.
it's not super active. Um,
Oh,
I know they
okay.
do like there's Friday night minions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So at the beginning of Friday night services, there's a whole section which are mostly sung. Some shuls sing them more than others. That whole part is about receiving Shabbat. We don't sing, so that could take 15 minutes away right there, or 10 minutes, or depending on whether you sing or not. And then there's the actual tefillah. So the big difference is in the Amidah prayer. Remember, the Amidah, the standing prayer, is the central prayer. So the one during the week is different than the one on Shabbat. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Great. The one on Yom Tov is also different from the one on Shabbat. It has special prayers that have to do with Yom Tov. And the same one is used for the 3 pilgrimage festivals. The difference is that on one you say it's about Pesach, one it's about, you slip in the words that have to do with that holiday. There's interchangeable, right? You flip it in and out. So on this holiday, you would use Shavuot. That's the words you would use. And at night, that's it pretty much. It's short. During the day, it's similar to Shabbat. It's a special festive longer morning prayers, morning psalms. Then there's the Shema. If you remember how the arc of davening of Tefillah goes, there's the morning psalms, and then there's the Shema prayer, which has blessings before and after. Then there's the Amidah prayer. That's the first part of Shabbat davening. Very, very similar on Yom Tov. The difference is that on Shabbat, there are special pieces. So you always have to look in the Siddur to see if it says on a holiday that's on a weekday, read this. On a holiday that's on Shabbat, read this. You just have to be careful to look at that. And again, the Amidah prayer is going to be different. The Amidah prayer is going to be the special Amidah prayer for Yom Tov. By the way, if Yom Tov happened to fall out on Shabbat, obviously that happens sometimes, then there are additions to add for Shabbat. So I'm just giving you warning about that, because anytime there's special day, you want to mention it in the Amidah prayer.
Okay.
Now, during the day, so that's the beginning. Then what's in the middle always on Shabbat, in between the first and the end of the Tefillah? What's the central part of Shabbat davening?
Um, the
Go
is
ahead.
the Kiddush?
No, the Kiddush is at the end. That's the eating. That's the food.
Okay. The but like we do, I guess I'm now confused.
Well, what happens when you go to shul? You tell me. You go to shul, what happens?
Yeah. Well,
You come in.
usually,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I mean, usually when I come in, there's people already reading from, I guess the Torah.
The Torah. Okay. So
Yeah.
if you come in during Torah reading, you've missed the whole prayers at the beginning. You've missed the
Oh,
early service, the shacharit. There's a whole prayer service that happens before the Torah reading. And I would recommend that you try to go for that as well. What time do you get there? Like 45 minutes after or an hour after it's called for?
I guess like around, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So that's how long it takes. It's about 45 minutes of prayers before. Then there's the Torah reading in the middle. And then there's again prayer. Sometimes is there a sermon in your shul?
Every once in a while.
Sorry, one second. I didn't hear that. What?
Like usually there is, kind of depends on who's leading.
Who's
Like
leading?
if our rabbi is only there like half of the time,
Oh, got it.
because he
If the
spends
rabbi's
half of
there, he
it.
gives a sermon.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So in the middle is the Torah reading. So what do we usually read on a Shabbat Torah reading?
I don't know.
Well, so what we do is we go in order. We start from Genesis, we go to the next, the next, the next, the next, the next, right? We go every Shabbat, we go to the next one in order. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Have we spoken about that? Okay. There are 54, I think, altogether. And then depending on how many Shabbatot there are, so it divides up nicely. And sometimes there are two portions that go together, sometimes separate, because if a holiday falls out on Shabbat, you don't read the next portion according to the order, right? When we read the Torah, we start from Genesis, from Bereshit, we go all the way through, all the way through. Now, I'm going to show you a picture of it. Try and find a Torah here. I should have one in my office, you'd imagine. This is just the 5 books. It's big because it has commentary and English. So we start from the beginning, from God created the world. That's after Simchat Torah. Then we go to Noah with the flood, and we continue in Abraham and Isaac. Remember those? Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, going to Egypt, coming out of Egypt, being saved. Remember that? Desert, receive the Torah, receive Torah. And then there's all sorts of stuff that happens in the desert. They end up wandering for 40 years. There's all sorts of laws. We hear stories, many, many different stories at the end. We're now in the last book, Deuteronomy. And that's where Moses gives his final long soliloquy in his farewell speech. You with me on that?
Yeah.
So we march along every Shabbat. We read the next portion. It's divided into portions. Okay. Well, what happens on a holiday, especially this year, like, well, every year, but it's on Wednesday and Thursday. So we don't read the Shabbat portion. We read, remember we said it's a biblical holiday. What makes it a biblical holiday? In the Bible, it tells us that this is a holiday. So that's what we read. We read about the Torah telling us to hold this holiday. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now there's more. I mean, we don't just read the one verse or 2 verses or 3, right? We might read about all 3 pilgrimage festivals. There are different portions, but they pretty much all have to do with the holiday. That makes sense. Okay, great. But it's shorter. It's shorter. The Shabbat are longer because they're the whole portion. Here it's a very small part. Okay, great. So you look in the book, whatever book you have, hopefully, which tells you where the portion is. I mean, the biggest struggle is learning Hebrew. I understand that, and there's nothing I can do except keep on encouraging you. It is worth investing your time to learn Hebrew. It is, as long as it takes, okay? It is really necessary, I would say, even in order to be comfortable in shul. You will never be fully comfortable in shul until you know Hebrew.
That's fair.
Yeah. So we read that portion, then we read a portion from the prophets, and then maybe there's a sermon. Now, on Shavuot, we don't just read about the Torah telling us to keep Shavuot. We also read the 10 commandments, the 10 utterances, because we believe we received them on Shavuot. So we don't only read about keep the holiday Shavuot, we also read about what happens on Shavuot. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay, great. We also read the book of Ruth. Now, in Israel, there's only one day of Shavuot, so everything is done the same day. But outside of Israel, there's 2 days. So we read the Torah both days, but we only read the book of Ruth on one day, which is the second day.
Okay.
All right, that's okay. What else happens on Shavuot? What do we do? We, by the way, there's a whole thing. So you missed this, but the first night of Shavuot, there's a strong custom because we love the Torah and that we believe we received the Torah to learn Torah all night. Now, some people do. It's
I
a
knew
small
that.
minority. Yeah, you knew that. Okay. So most shuls, not every, have classes all night long. Not all, and a small group, stays up for that and then sleeps the
Mhm.
next morning and feels kind of yucky the rest of the day. But you
Yeah.
feel good about learning Torah. So
Isn't it a thing
what I
where
did in my show, by the way, because women very often don't do that. Either they're taking care of kids or it's just not in their practice, or um they're busy preparing food, whatever it is. I actually had a class on Shabbat in my show for women, and we learned the scroll of Ruth. It was amazing. We only got through the first 14 verses, but it took us an hour and a half to get through it because we did a really beautiful reading of it, a really close reading. I wish I could do that here, but it gave the women a chance to prepare and they learned Torah. So it wasn't on Shavuot, but it was right before. So that's Shavuot. Then what happens after? Remember what I said? There's davening at the beginning, davening at the end, and in the middle is Torah. I've said this a few times. So after we finish the Torah reading and maybe Ruth, then maybe there's a sermon, maybe not. And then there's the second part, which is called Musaf. And again, the Musaf Amidah is special for Yom Tov. That's more or less what the davening is going to be on Shavuot, without going into actual detail of what we say and showing you the pages.
okay.
The other addition is there's something called Yizkor. Do you remember talking about it? That's a day, it's every holiday except for Rosh Hashanah. There's a day, Yizkor means he will remember, and it's about remembering the people who passed away. It's a communal time where we remember the close family who passed away. That happens in Israel on the same day, obviously. Outside of Israel, it's on the second day, I believe. And there's a special prayer. We remember people for the community during COVID. We remembered people from COVID who passed away. We think about American armed forces, and Canada might be Canadian armed forces, who died defending the country. Israeli soldiers, will mention maybe the captives, not sure. And everybody also gets their own private time where they remember the people from their family who passed away. Okay. I would say those are the pieces. It does take a while to get through the tefillah, which I think can be very boring if you don't know Hebrew, but maybe you can appreciate the tunes.
Okay.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, it is a show that has every week, right? Every week it has
Yes.
tefillah.
Yes.
I mean, right now, as you're learning, I think it's really important for you to go as much as possible every week. Is there somebody to show you the place or not so much?
Like
Like a davening buddy.
oh, I don't know. I guess I can ask around.
I don't know. Do you feel comfortable? I mean, that's helpful because then you can at least read the English
Yeah.
and know
Yeah.
what's happening. It's just very hard to have this whole book where you don't understand any of the words. Can you and Itai sit kind of next to each other around the mechitza and he could tell you, or not possible?
Um, maybe. I mean, the one there isn't very high. Like it's so it is possible. And
Well,
there's
that can be helpful. There are couples in
okay,
our community who do that. I'm wondering if that could be
okay,
helpful for you.
maybe. I mean, yeah,
Okay.
that could work.
All right. Anything else I can help you with? You want to ask questions about Shavuot or about the davening, the tefillah?
Um, I guess like is there a spot that you can recommend, or maybe my Jewish learning would have it, like where it just like writes out the order in English what things are?
I don't know if it would help you to have the order. The order is in your Siddur. You need the page
Okay.
numbers, but we've done that before. Haven't we done that? Maybe you weren't on that call. Maybe you weren't on that one where we put in Post-its. You weren't on that one?
I
Or
don't remember doing that.
maybe you don't remember doing that. Maybe you weren't on that one. Maybe that was the weekday one, but I know I suggested to people to come with Post-its to
Okay.
mark things. So we'll be doing that again. And because what are they going to list for you? Every Siddur is different. Every Siddur, the layout's a
Yeah.
little different.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it could pose, it could make a list, but it's only helpful in the Siddur that you're using.
That's
So
fair.
it would just be a very long list of things. I think we need to continue, circle back to, maybe that'll be the last class that we'll take a Siddur and we'll go through it again. Maybe that'll be helpful.
Sure.
Take a Siddur and I'll help people, but then you have to bring your Siddurim to work with you, Gabby.
Yeah, that's not a big deal.
Maybe I'll suggest
Yeah.
that for the last class. That's not a bad idea. I like that idea. To leave people before the summer with maybe we'll go back to Shabbat Tefillah and mark it with Post-its. So maybe I'll suggest that for the last one.
Okay.
Okay, terrific.
Cool.
All right. Anything else comes up for you for Shavuot? Are you eating together? You're having a Chag meal, a holiday meal?
Yeah, because I don't I can like drive back and forth. It's
Uh-huh.
not a big deal to do that with him.
Now there's also Kiddush that we say. It's a different Kiddush.
Okay.
Do you make Kiddush Friday nights, the two of you?
Yeah, I mean he'll usually how it goes is I'll get him to say it and I'll repeat it.
Oh, good. Beautiful. So on Yom Tov, it's a different one.
Okay.
So it's good to read it. It's good to learn it, to read it, to see that's a little bit the same and a little bit different. This is good. It's a good way to practice. You need to practice this by just at least hearing and following along with the transliteration. Just at least. Okay, great. Terrific. All right, my friends. Hopefully other people are watching this as well. I know this is very short. I think that we will try to do the last one. I'll put that out. That we'll do the last one. I'll ask everybody to bring their Shabbat Siddur and we'll go over it again because you can't go over it enough. It's just there's so much to learn about it. And we'll bring I'll ask people to bring Post-its so you can kind of follow along with things. All right. And think of any questions you might have. Reminding you and everybody to set up a time for check-in with me. All right.
Sounds good.
Great. Well, thanks for coming on, Gabby. It's always a delight to
No
be with
worries.
you.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, pleasure. All right. Be
Okay.
well. We say
Bye.
Chag
You too.
Sameach. Have a happy
Ag
holiday.
Sameach.
Bye-bye.
Bye.